He dragged me into hell, thinking that I would remain his angel. But I became the devil in his nightmare. If you have the courage, watch until the end and find out whose shot put an end to this war. My name is Emily Carter. 10 years ago, I stood in a sunlit chapel, trembling as Daniel slid a gold band onto my finger. We were the couple everyone envied, high school sweethearts turned picture-perfect marriage. Back then, his laughter-filled rooms, his hands, calloused from weekend carpentry projects, would brush my cheek with a tenderness that made me believe in forever. But forever cracked slowly. It started with small things. He'd critique my outfits. That dress is too revealing. Then my job. Why work? I manque enough. I dismissed it as stress. Daniel had just been promoted to CFO at his firm. But the clock on our mantle, a wedding gift he wound every night, began ticking louder. Its rhythm synced with his new habits. Spreadsheets at 2 a.m., hush phone calls, eyes that lingered on my phone like he was decoding secrets. One night, I woke to find him gone. The clock read 3:33. I found him in the garage, muttering numbers into his phone. "It's under control," he snapped when I asked. The next morning, roses waited on the kitchen counter. For my queen, the note said. The petals felt like ash in my hands. The proposal came on a Thursday. Daniel arrived home early, his tie loosened, eyes glinting with something I couldn't name. Over salmon and asparagus, his favorite, he dropped the act. "We need to reconnect," he said, swirling his wine. "I've arranged something special." My fork clattered. Special? 2 associates. This weekend. Associates for what? My throat tightened. He leaned closer, breath sour with Cabernet. A shared experience. For us. I fled to the bathroom, locking the door. My reflection stared back, pale, fraying. When I returned, Daniel was gone. His laptop glowed on the couch. A Slack thread glared. "Jake, 10:15 p.m. She's clean? No STDs. Daniel, 10:16 p.m. Like I'd risk my reputation on damaged goods. The clock's ticking crescendoed. I stumbled to the mantel, gripping its edges until my knuckles whitened. In the garage, Daniel's golf clubs gleamed. I imagined swinging one through the screen. Instead, I took a photo. Evidence. That night, I plotted. In the attic, I found my grandmother's pearl necklace, the one Daniel called tacky. Pawn shops gave $800. I buried the cash in a tampon box where he'd never look. At Target, I bought a burner phone, tucking it under the spare tire in my Corolla. Daniel noticed. "You're distant," he murmured, tracing my spine in bed. His touch made my skin crawl. "Is this about the other night?" "It's just, I need you to trust me." The next morning, a Tiffany box waited on my pillow. Inside, diamond earrings. "For us," he'd written. I wore them to dinner, smiling as he bragged to friends about my loyalty. Later, I vomited them up, the stones scraping my throat. By week's end, I'd scraped together $2,300. Lauren, my college roommate, agreed to hide me. "His name's on the mortgage," I whispered in the Kroger parking lot, passing her the key. "If he finds you..." "Let him try," she said, squeezing my hand. That night, Daniel brought home champagne. Celebrating us, he grinned. I sipped, counting the clock's ticks. 11, 12, 1. When his snores rattled, I crept to the garage. The go bag was ready. Cash, IDs, a Glock Lauren insisted I take. As dawn bled through blinds, I watched him sleep. The man who'd written me love notes in calculus class now traded me like stock. I pressed a kiss to his forehead, my goodbye, and stepped into the cold. The weekend arrived like a storm. Daniel spent hours cleaning the house, polishing silverware he'd never used, arranging tulips in vases like props in a play. His hands trembled as he adjusted his tie in the hallway mirror, a crack in his usual cold precision. I lingered by the staircase, my stomach churning as headlights pierced the curtains. Two shadows approached the door. Jake entered first, his leather jacket smelling of cigarette smoke and mint gum. His eyes swept the room, lingering on me just a second too long. Behind him loomed a man with knuckle tattoos and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Daniel greeted them like old friends, clapping Jake's shoulder too hard. "Emily, this is Jake and Vince." The words slithered out. Vince nodded, his gaze dropping to my wedding ring. Dinner was a grotesque pantomime. Daniel refilled wine glasses with a shaking hand, laughing at jokes no one made. I pushed salmon around my plate, the clocks ticking, syncing with my pulse. Jake's boot brushed mine under the table, a flicker of warning. When Daniel stood to fetch dessert, Jake leaned in. "Check the garage," he muttered, his voice buried under the clatter of forks. I slipped away, claiming a headache. The garage light buzzed, illuminating cardboard boxes stacked like silent witnesses. Behind Daniel's golf bag, I found a ledger. Pages of numbers, dates, and initials $50,000 owed. Collateral EC. My knees buckled. The air reeked of motor oil and betrayal. Footsteps echoed. Jake stood in the doorway, his silhouette swallowing the light. "He's been borrowing from the wrong people," he said, lighting a cigarette. "You're the repayment plan." Ash fell like snow. "You've got till sunrise." Then Vince comes back. He pressed a key into my palm, a motel room number etched in brass. Back inside, Daniel gripped my arm, his breath hot. "Smile, Emily. For us." His nails dug crescents into my skin as he led me to the couch. Vince grinned, patting the space beside him. The clock struck 9. I excused myself to the bathroom, locking the door. My reflection stared back, a ghost in a diamond necklace. The window above the toilet beckoned, barely wide enough to squeeze through. Outside, rain hissed against pavement. The go bag waited under the porch, soaked but intact. I crouched in the mud, clutching Lauren's key. Inside, Daniel's voice rose, sharp and slurred. "Where the hell is she?" Glass shattered. Tires screeched down the street as I ran, motel key biting my palm. Halfway to Lauren's, I stumbled into an all-night diner. The waitress took one look at my shaking hands and slid over coffee. "Rough night, honey?" I stared at the steam, Jake's warning ringing in my ears. Sunrise. Vince. Collateral. At 4:03 a.m. I texted Lauren. "I'm here." Her porch light flickered on, a lighthouse in the dark. Behind me, the city slept. Ahead, a thread of dawn bled through clouds. I didn't look back. Lauren's apartment smelled like lavender and gun oil. She turned the guest room into a fortress, blinds nailed shut, a baseball bat propped against the dresser, her old laptop humming on a desk littered with burner phones. "You're safe here," she'd said, but safety felt like a myth. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the motel key Jake had given me. The brass was warm, stamped with room 214. A trap? A lifeline? My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Downstairs, a car door slammed. I froze, heart jackhammering, until Lauren peered through the blinds. Just Mrs. Henderson walking her poodle. She handed me tea, its steam curling like smoke. We need to move fast. Daniel's already filed a missing person report. The news headline glared from her laptop. Local CFO's wife vanishes. Mental health crisis suspected. Comment sections bubbled with speculation. Gold digger. Runaway. Nut job. I closed the lid, the accusations searing my fingertips. At midnight, I dreamt of the clock. Its hands spun backward, Daniel's voice chanting, "Collateral, collateral, collateral." I woke to sirens wailing in the distance, my shirt soaked through. Lauren slept on the couch, a pistol gleaming on the coffee table. I tiptoed to the bathroom, splashing water on my face. The mirror reflected a stranger. Hollow eyes, knotted hair, a bruise blooming where Daniel had gripped my arm. By dawn, the world had shifted. Daniel's face dominated morning news, tearful, holding our wedding photo. "Emily, if you're watching, come home." His performance nauseated me. Worse were the texts flooding my burner phone. Unknown, 6:15 a.m. Your mom's address is 37 Oakwood Lane. Cute house. Unknown, 6:17 a.m. Does Lauren know you're a liar? I deleted them, but the threats lingered like poison. Lauren devised a plan. We leaked the ledger. Bank records. Expose his debt, but the ledger was still in the garage, and Jake's warning echoed, "Sunrise." Vince comes back. We drove to a library across town, hoods up, sunglasses masking our faces. On a public computer, I accessed Daniel's cloud. Password, Emily Forever. Folders filled with spreadsheets, offshore accounts, and a video titled Insurance. I clicked it. Grainy footage showed Daniel in a parking garage handing a USB drive to a man in a hoodie. "If anything happens to me, release this," he said. The man nodded. "She'll pay." Lauren copied everything onto a flash drive. "Blackmail material," she whispered. Outside, a black SUV idled at the curb. We left through the emergency exit. Nightfall brought Jake. He leaned against Lauren's car, moonlight glinting off his ring, a skull with ruby eyes. "Vince isn't patient," he said, flicking his cigarette. "You've got 48 hours. Then he cleans up loose ends." "What's clean up mean?" My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Jake smirked. "You've seen crime shows." He tossed a burner phone at my feet. "Use it. Or don't." Tires screeched as he vanished. Back inside, Lauren dissected the phone. Untraceable. Batteries rigged to die after one call. We stared at it like a live grenade. At 3 a.m., I dialed. Daniel answered on the first ring. "Emily." His voice dripped honey and venom. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Silence. "Come home. We'll fix this. For us." The line went dead. I hurled the phone against the wall, its pieces scattering like shrapnel. Lauren handed me the flash drive. "We fight dirty now." The flash drive burned in my pocket like a live coal. Lauren's hacker contact, a shadowy figure named Ghost, met us at a dimly lit internet cafe downtown. His fingers flew across the keyboard, uploading Daniel's offshore accounts to anonymous forums. "Once this goes viral," he muttered, "your husband's empire crumbles by morning." I stared at the screen. Watching dollar amounts bleed into public view. 2 million in the Caymans, 500K in shell companies, transactions labeled EC collateral. My initials. My worth. By dawn, the storm broke. News outlets splashed Daniel's face alongside words like fraud and embezzlement. Twitter threads dissected our wedding photos, zooming in on my 4 smiles. Texts flooded my burner phone. You ruined him. And slut from strangers. Lauren muted my devices, but the damage seeped in. I traced the motel key's jagged edges, wondering if Jake's offer was still valid. At noon, Daniel's lawyer called. Lauren answered, her voice icy. No deals. Release the rest unless he drops the restraining order. She hung up, grinning. He's panicking, but panic made predators desperate. Daniel retaliated. A fake Instagram account posted grainy footage of me at a bar, my face clumsily photoshopped onto a stranger's body. Comments exploded. She's unstable, gold digger. My boss left a voicemail. Take a leave of absence. Emily. Until this blows over. I deleted it, my job dissolving like smoke. That night, Vince found us. His black SUV idled outside Lauren's apartment, headlights off. Through the blinds, I watched him toss a cigarette onto the sidewalk, its ember glowing like a predator's eye. Lauren cocked her pistol. He's testing us. We sat in darkness until 3 a.m., the air thick with adrenaline and lavender oil. At sunrise, a package arrived, a box wrapped in wedding paper. Inside, the shattered remains of our mantel clock, its hands frozen at 3:33. A note in Daniel's handwriting. Time's up. We fled to a safe house, a cabin deep in the pine forest. The drive felt endless, every passing car a threat. Lauren chain-chewed gum, her knuckles white on the wheel. Ghost says Daniel's draining accounts. He'll run. But running required silencing witnesses. At the cabin, I hacked into Daniel's cloud one last time. A folder named Emily held surveillance photos, me buying coffee, Lauren mailing the flash drive, Jake outside the motel. The final file was a voicemail from Vince. The wife dies tonight. Clean job. Dated yesterday. I vomited into the sink. Lauren loaded her shotgun. We don't wait for sunrise. Midnight. Headlights carved through the trees. 2 figures emerged, Vince and a man I didn't recognize. Lauren aimed through the window. Stay down, she ordered. A gunshot cracked. Then silence. When I peered outside, Vince lay motionless, pine needles sticking to his bloodied jacket. The other man was gone. Jake's skull ring glinted in the moonlight, tossed onto the porch steps. A message. A warning. The clock had stopped, but the game wasn't over. Blood seeped into the forest floor, staining the pine needles rust red. Lauren dragged Vince's body into the SUV, her breath visible in the cold air. I stood frozen, clutching Jake's skull ring, its ruby eyes glinting like accusation. Help me, Lauren hissed, snapping me back. Together, we shoved him into the trunk, his limbs stiffening into grotesque angles. The keys jingled in my shaking hand. Drive north. Dump him in the ravine. The road twisted through darkness, headlights slicing through fog. Every shadow felt like Daniel's men. Every mile, marker whispered guilty. At the ravine, we rolled Vince's body over the edge. Rocks clattered, then silence. Lauren wiped her hands on her jeans. No going back now. We retreated to a motel off Highway 17, its neon sign flickering, vacancy like a taunt. Room 214, Jake's key. Inside, mildew clung to the curtains. A Bible lay open on the nightstand, Psalm 23 underlined. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I laughed the sound hollow. Lauren hacked into police scanners, static hissing through the room. No reports on Vince yet. My burner phone buzzed. A photo of the ravine, time-stamped an hour ago. Unknown number. I smashed the phone against the wall, plastic shards skittering under the bed. At dawn, I found Jake's ring missing. In its place, a USB drive labeled Final Offer. Lauren plugged it in. Surveillance footage showed Daniel meeting Vince months ago. If she resists, make it look accidental. My throat tightened. The video ended with a screenshot of my mother's nursing home. We raced to Willowbrook Nursing Home, tires screeching into the parking lot. Nurses buzzed about a suspicious van earlier. Mom sat by the window, oblivious, knitting the same scarf she'd started years ago. Emily? Where's Daniel? Her foggy eyes searched mine. I kissed her forehead, slipping a tracker into her purse. Back at the motel, Lauren rigged alarms, tripwires, glass shards on the windowsill. They'll come tonight. I loaded the Glock, its weight foreign yet comforting. Sunset bled through the curtains, painting the room orange. A knock. Not the door, the bathroom window. Jake's face pressed against the grimy glass, a finger to his lips. Behind him, two figures lurked in the parking lot. He mouthed run, then vanished. Engines revved. Tires spat gravel. We fled through the emergency exit, night swallowing us whole. The motel exploded into flames behind us, heat licking our backs. Lauren's hand gripped mine. No more hiding. Smoke clawed at my lungs as we stumbled through the woods, flames painting the trees in hellish hues. Lauren's grip on my hand tightened, her breaths ragged. Behind us, shouts echoed. Find them! Voices sharp as broken glass. My ankle twisted on a root, pain shooting up my leg. I bit back a scream, tasting ash and blood. We collapsed behind a granite boulder, its cold surface a stark contrast to the inferno devouring the motel. Lauren pressed a pistol into my palm. Aim for the chest, she whispered, though her eyes said what words couldn't. This might be it. The forest hummed with crickets, oblivious to the hunt. In the distance, a flashlight beam sliced through the pines. Jake's voice carried on the wind. She's not here. A lie. A gift. The beam veered left. I clutched the USB drive. Final Offer, its edges digging into my flesh. Evidence. Vindication. A tombstone. Dawn found us at a derelict gas station, its sign creaking in the wind. While Lauren scavenged for food, I plugged the USB into a stolen laptop. Files spilled open. Security footage of Daniel's first meeting with Vince, dated 3 months after our wedding. Flashback. Daniel sits in a dim booth at a diner, his wedding ring gleaming. Vince slides a contract across the table. Sign, and the debt's erased. Daniel's pen hovers. And if I refuse, Vince smiles. Your wife's car has faulty brakes. The video cuts to Daniel sobbing in our garage, clutching a bottle of bourbon. I'm sorry, Emily, he slurs to the empty room. I just wanted to protect us. I slammed the laptop shut. Pity Ward with rage. Lauren returned, tossing me a protein bar. Eat. We move in 10. We circled back to the city, disguises borrowed from a Salvation Army bin. 2 big hoodies, faded baseball caps. The courthouse loomed ahead, its marble steps a stage. Reporters swarmed, drawn by Daniel's crumbling empire. Lauren handed me a burner phone. Ghost leaked the video. It's trending. Screen after screen showed Daniel's face, sweat slick and panicked, fleeing his office. Comments shifted. She's a hero. Free Emily. At dusk, we ambushed him. His Mercedes idled at a red light. I stepped into the headlights, pistol hidden but ready. His eyes met mine. Fear, fury, something like regret. Lauren yanked open the passenger door, pressing her gun to his temple. Drive. He obeyed, hands shaking on the wheel. We parked at the pier, waves crashing below. I tossed the USB at his feet. Confess, or this goes public. Daniel laughed, hollow and broken. You think this ends with me? They'll bury you. A single shot rang out. Not from us. Daniel slumped, a red flower blooming on his chest. Across the street, Jake lowered his rifle, tipped his hat, and vanished into the night. The tide carried the USB away. Freedom, at last, tasted like salt and gunpowder. The pier stretched empty behind us. Daniel's body slumped in his seat like a broken marionette. Blood pooled on the leather, dripping onto concrete stained with decades of fish guts and gasoline. Lauren dragged him into the trunk, her face a mask of grim efficiency. I stared at his wedding ring, still gleaming on his finger. 10 years, erased in a heartbeat. We drove north, the Mercedes engine whining under the weight of secrets. Dawn crept over the horizon, painting the sky in sickly yellows. Lauren gripped the wheel, her knuckles bone white. We dumped the car at the quarry. Let the water swallow it. I nodded, my throat raw from smoke and unshed tears. At the quarry's edge, we rolled the Mercedes into the abyss. It hit the water with a thunderous splash, bubbles rising like ghosts. Lauren tossed the keys after it. Done, but nothing felt finished. Jake's rifle shot still echoed in my skull, a punctuation mark to a sentence I hadn't written. Safe houses no longer existed. We slept in shifts at truck stops, jumping at every diesel growl. News reports blared from greasy TVs, CFO's murder linked to crime syndicate. My face flashed on screen. Person of interest. Lauren smothered a laugh. They think you're a mastermind. The USB's absence haunted me. Had the tide claimed it? Or did Jake retrieve it? Another card up his sleeve? At a rest stop outside Reno, I found his skull ring in my jacket pocket. The ruby eyes glinted under fluorescent lights. A threat? An apology? I left it in a payphone receiver, quarters clattering like teeth. By week's end, we reached the desert, a vast, scorched expanse where secrets could burn. Lauren bought a shotgun from a pawn shop. Last stand territory, she joked, but her eyes scanned the rearview mirror too often. Ghost found us. His message arrived via a drone that dropped a package onto our motel roof, a file labeled Full Circle. Inside, bank records traced Daniel's debts to a shell company owned by Jake. He played both sides. Ghost's note read, "You were always the exit strategy." The desert sun beat down as I pieced it together. Jake needed Daniel eliminated without dirtying his hands. I'd been the catalyst, the scorned wife turned unwitting assassin. My freedom was a byproduct, not a goal. Lauren spat into the dust. Men, always outsourcing their messes. She cocked the shotgun. Let's give Jake a thank you visit. We found him at a roadside diner, sipping black coffee in a corner booth. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Knew you'd come. I slid into the seat opposite him. the pistol heavy in my waistband. Outside, semis roared past, their drivers oblivious. Jake pushed an envelope across the table. Photos of my mother, safe at Willowbrook. Vince's crew's disbanded. You're clean. His finger tapped the skull ring. Stay gone. Lauren aimed under the table. Or what? He stood, dropping cash on his coffee stain. Or you'll miss the sunset. We watched his truck vanish into the heat haze. The envelope held a deed to a cabin in Alaska and a burner phone. One call, Lauren muttered. Probably rigged to blow. I pocketed it anyway. Some traps looked like gifts. Some gifts were traps. The Alaskan cabin hunched under a sky heavy with unshed snow. Pine trees bowed under the weight of ice, their branches clawing at the windows like skeletal hands. Inside, Lauren stoked the wood stove, her breath fogging the air. Home sweet prison, she muttered. Jake's deed had come furnished, canned goods, a rifle above the mantel, and a landline with one saved number. I traced the phone's cord, wondering if it rang straight to hell. Days blurred. We slept on military cots, ate beans from chipped bowls, and watched the tree lean through rifle scopes. At night, the northern lights painted the snow in ghostly greens. I dreamed of Daniel's clock, its hands spinning backward, and woke clutching the empty space where my wedding ring once sat. One morning, the landline rang. Lauren answered, her face hardening. She hung up and tossed me a parka. Jake's sending a package. The box arrived at dusk, delivered by a grizzled pilot who smelled of whiskey and kerosene. Inside, Daniel's charred laptop, a stack of cash bound with his monogrammed ribbon, and a Polaroid of Mom at Willowbrook, dated yesterday. On the back, Jake's scrawl, interest cleared. Don't call again. Lauren dismantled the laptop, finding a GPS chip taped to the motherboard. He's tracking us. She tossed it into the stove, flames licking the serial number from existence. The cash we kept, blood money for a bloodless future. That night, I hacked into Willowbrook's database. Mom's file glowed on the screen. Visitors. None. Notes. Speaks a daughter's trip to the mountains. Relief curdled into grief. She'd forgotten me before I'd vanished. They came at twilight, shadows skirting the tree lean. Lauren spotted them first. 2 men in snow camo, breath steaming as they advanced. Jake's cleanup crew. She hissed, loading the rifle. We slipped into the forest, the snow muffling our steps. Moonlight turned the world monochrome. I crouched behind a spruce, the Glock's grip biting my palm. A twig snapped. One man passed inches away, his rifle barrel glinting. Lauren took the shot. The crack split the silence. He fell, red blooming across snow. The second man scrambled, firing blindly. Bullets shredded bark above my head. I returned fire, the recoil jolting my bones. He collapsed mid-sprint. We stood over the bodies, their faces strangers. No IDs, just burner phones with a single contact, Jay. Lauren kicked snow over the bloodstains. He'll keep sending them. Back at the cabin, I dialed Jake's number. Static hummed, then his voice, cold as the tundra. You missed one. The line died. Behind us, the wood stove exploded. Flames devoured the cabin, heat melting snow into toxic steam. Lauren dragged me through the inferno, her parka smoldering. We collapsed in a snowdrift, lungs scorched, watching the roof cave in. The rifle was gone. The Glock, too. All that remained was Jake's burner phone, its screen cracked but glowing. Run. We staggered into the woods, frostbite gnawing at our toes. Behind us, engines growled. Headlights carved through the smoke, hunting. Lauren's breaths grew ragged, blood flecking the snow where she coughed. "Leave me," she rasped. I gripped her arm tighter. The night Daniel died, I promised myself, no one else gets left behind. A frozen river loomed ahead, its ice groaning under the weight of secrets. We crawled across, the cold seeping through layers of wool and regret. Midway, the ice cracked. Lauren plunged into the black water. I dove after her, the current swallowing my scream. We washed up miles downstream, half dead on a gravel bank. Dawn bled through the trees, revealing a road. A trucker picked us up, his radio humming country tunes. He didn't ask questions, didn't need to. Our faces were on every news channel. Fugitives linked to CFO murder case. At a roadside motel, we peeled off frozen clothes and huddled under scalding showers. Lauren's hands trembled, her lips blue. We can't run forever. I opened Jake's phone, typing coordinates from memory, Willowbrook's address. The call connected on the first ring. "You're persistent," Jake drawled. Static swallowed his sigh. "Meet me at the docks." Midnight. Come alone. The docks reeked of fish and diesel. Jake leaned against a shipping container, his breath fogging in the lamplight. No rifle, no smirk, just exhaustion etched into the lines of his face. "You win," he said, tossing a folder at my feet. Passports, cash, a deed to a vineyard in Argentina. Disappear. Or I finish what's been started. Lauren stepped from the shadows, her pistol steady. "We're done hiding." Jake smiled, a sad, broken thing, and raised his hands. "Then shoot." The gunshot echoed across the water. Jake crumpled, a dark stain spreading across his chest. But it wasn't Lauren's bullet. A sniper's work, precise and impersonal. From the warehouse roof, a figure saluted and vanished. We burned the folder in a rusted oil drum, its flames devouring false promises. The passports curled to ash. The cash floated away on the tide. At dawn, we boarded a bus to nowhere, the road humming beneath us. Months later, headlines blared. CFO, conspiracy solved, mystery shooter still at large. My face had faded from the news. In a small coastal town, I 10-bar under a new name. Lauren sends postcards from places that don't exist. The clock is gone. The debt paid. Some nights, I stand on the shore, watching the horizon. Waiting. Not for hunters or ghosts, but for the moment I'll stop hearing Jake's last words. Freedom's just another cage. The waves don't answer. They never do. Every ending is just the beginning of another story waiting to happen. Don't stop now. Click to discover more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.